Welcome to A Drop of Silence, the groundbreaking podcast series that dives deep into the realms of controversy. Join us as we bring special guests who share their extraordinary experiences and offer unparalleled insight into history, today's news headlines, and the future. Get ready to embark on a thought-provoking journey where silence speaks volumes and the truth lies somewhere beneath the surface.
What time will it be when war is no more? When bullets are melted and the warships moor.
Shalom. My guest for this week is Rabbi Sholom Galperin. He is the Chabad Rabbi of Windsor. The reason I chose Sholom is I have known him since my radio days. And how I met him was when he was in the university and observing what was going on between the terrified Jewish students and the very hyperactive Muslim students who were shouting for BDS rules to be put in place and stuff like that. And I'd been, shy, innocent little soul that I am, introverted beyond that. I had been fighting in my own way to get Jewish students to not be afraid and to be proud. But Sholom took it all on. And he changed the way the University of Windsor is. If you look at the University of Windsor and you look at other universities in Canada and the United States, we're pretty mild. We have a tendency to try and get along, which is an amazing accomplishment. I hope you enjoy Rabbi Galperin's interview. With me today is Rabbi Sholom Galperin. Rabbi Galperin has been in Windsor as the Chabad spiritual leader for over 14 years. In that time, he has successfully given the Jewish community new hope and confidence, has stepped in to help find ways of curbing anti-Semitism in our community, and has created wonderful, happy programs for children and adults alike. So welcome, Rabbi, to A Drop of Silence.
Thank you, Pam. This is so beautiful. When you asked me about this, I'm thinking, you know what? We used to do this a very, very, very long time ago. Boker Tov.
I know, the Boker Tov radio show. I had you on almost every week. So it's
beautiful.
like old home week,
That's right. You know what? Even though, you know how it is sometimes when you say goodbye to someone and you don't necessarily see them, I don't mean in our case, but you don't necessarily see them for 10, 12 years. And all of a sudden you see each other and you just sort of pick up from where you left off, and then off you go. You're talking, right? So that's beautiful.
It's true. But first, let's talk about your setting, because it's our holiday. And what is the holiday? And why are you sitting in that little shed?
Oh, that's a very good question. So we celebrate today, which started on Friday night for 8 days, the holiday of Sukkot, which is a holiday that represents the Jews when they were in the desert. They were traveling. They had the cloud of glory on top of them, and was watching them and was traveling with them. Now the sukkah, as you can see, well, you can see a little bit, is made out of either wood paneling or material or whatever it is, and the roof, as you can see, has a little bit of holes. It's not necessarily a permanent roof. I shouldn't say not necessarily. It is not a permanent roof. And it's a roof that is either made out of bamboo sticks, greenery, palm trees, wherever you are, and which really represents the idea of something that is not permanent. Our lives in this world are not permanent. We could be here tomorrow, be gone today, and be gone tomorrow, in a year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. It doesn't make a difference. And when you look at the sukkah and you go in and you eat in the sukkah and you make the special blessings in the sukkah, it should constantly remind you of that you are here for a non-permanent basis. And we have to make that every day that we're in this world as though, not that it is, but as though it is your last day. So you're going to do anything you possibly can in your time to help people, to be there for people, to be there for your family, to be there for yourself, and to connect to God. So that's what sukkahs really, at least to me, that's what sukkahs really represents, that idea. And we eat in the sukkah. There are people that sleep in the sukkah there. And so we try and associate our day with the sukkah.
I remember when I used to visit with Rabbi Donan, who since moved to Israel and has passed away. He used to always say he loved to put spruce tree branches because then he could look up and see the stars and know that Hashem was only a few feet away from him.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's so pretty. I always remember that. But my
it reminds me of someone that it was just someone that coming close to God, and he had a roommate and had a bunk bed, and he wanted specifically to be on the top of the bunk bed. And the roommate is like, okay, you want to go on the bunk bed? Okay, I'll sleep on the bottom. But why are you so adamant? Like, because if I sleep on top of the bunk bed, I'm going to be closer to God.
That's it. That's it. Okay, the reason I asked you here is because we've done over 18 podcasts now. And
wow.
one of the things that keeps coming up is how Jewish people in North America are getting more and more looking inwards and being more and more afraid to be part of the outside community, unless they totally turn their backs on being Jewish and say, well, we're not Jewish that way. I'm just Jewish by name, kind of a thing. And I know a lot of sermons have been brought up, especially this Rosh Hashanah, about being your own name, following a Jewish derech, a Jewish path. And that will give you the strength to face anti-Semitism. But as you and I well know, back when you first came into Windsor, the Jewish students at the University of Windsor were absolutely terrified to be Jewish. The Jewish Student Association back then had less than 25 students affiliated with it because they were terrified of what would happen to them. They feared for their lives, actually. And I remember you coming down. This is how we first met. And you were walking down to the radio station, and you saw me talking to all of these Muslim students who used to sit in the waiting room of the radio station, ready to yell at me for whatever I had said. And he said, "Oy vey, have we got a problem?"
What would you be saying, Pam? That would be so controversial.
Oh, I'm so shy and introverted. Yeah. I don't say anything.
I can imagine.
You said, so I explained to you that we sat and had coffee, and I explained to you these kids are terrified because all of these events are happening that are anti-Israel, anti-Jew, very pro-Palestinian, very pro-Muslim. And I was telling you what I was doing, which was serving cookies and muffins after my radio show and talking with them. But it didn't, I had no idea. And you came along and you said, let me try a few things. And then within the year, you had Jews and Muslims sitting across from each other breaking bread. So what did you do?
So
just remember back to when you were 12.
I'm trying to go back in that time because it's over 14 years. But I remember when even before that I met you. So we came to Windsor, and I remember it was my first Shabbos. And on Friday or Thursday, I don't remember what it was, I went on campus, and I happened to meet. I went down to the lower pit in the law building. and someone came over to me because I was wearing my kippah. I was not embarrassed. My tzitzis were hanging out, and someone asked me and said, "You know, you're Jewish?" I said, "Yeah." And so I had to come. I said, "You Jewish as well?" He said, "Yeah." And so we were talking, and I said, "You know, it's Friday night, and we would love to have you or any other students that want to come to us for Friday Shabbat dinner." And he was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy. It's amazing. Wow." So I told him where it was going. It wasn't going to be on campus because we weren't living on campus. And I said, "Come." And we sort of prepared for a little bit. I remember the first Friday night, we had about 20 students that came. That they finally were maybe not on campus, whatever it was, they felt there's some sort of something, some sort of connection or yearning or missing that they wanted to get involved. And then from there, I started realizing, that students were scared to be proud of who they were. They wouldn't necessarily wear a kippah on campus. And I remember even someone that would wear a kippah all the time, whether it being Toronto and all that. And when he came to campus, he said, "Well, I don't really feel safe. I'm going to either wear a baseball cap or I'm not going to wear it." So things have changed a little bit by then, which I'll talk about. And so I realized that, okay, there's got to be something here. So we found more students and more students. And then, Windsor Law was not something that was, oh my gosh, the law school to go to for Jews. From Toronto, which is primarily the base where most of the students are coming. And you go to Windsor, you're Windsor. And over time, obviously, I'm not going to say it's the best law school, but it's become a good law school. And we found through that many, many Jewish students that are coming on a constant basis. Just to touch on one point before I go back to how we sort of broke that, or not, didn't break that, but try to make it a little bit more at ease. I remember it was one Rosh Hashanah a bunch of years back when we were still living in our old house, and I could maybe fit about 25 or so students in the house by the table, and we were getting email and WhatsApp and Facebook message, one after the other. And I basically told students, I said, "You're welcome to come. Food we'll have, atmosphere we'll have, space we may not have, but there's plenty couch space and there's many floor space." And we were literally all over the couch. And that was the time when we sort of realized to ourselves, okay, we got to move because we need to have a bigger place. And thank God, since we have moved, we've had to move different rooms, but we've able to accommodate everyone. But going back all the way to the beginning, I remember there was a lot of friction. There was a lot of anti-Semitism. People were scared. People were worried. They felt that they had, let's say, a target on their back. And I think a lot of it is not only of what they are influenced in the outside world, whether the media or whatever it is a lot is really people that are doing what they're doing. They just don't have that education. They don't understand. They don't know. They're not involved. They just, whatever you hear, "Oh, you're bad, because that's all I'm going to say." So I remember one year, one of the first years, we did a dinner. We did it in the law school. We took their biggest room, and we thought, okay, we got it catered. We got sort of Middle Eastern style food that everyone could be Hamish and comfortable. We got, like schnitzels and whatever. And we thought, okay, the Jews will come. And then, a few of other people will show up. And it wasn't the case. Many Jews came, and many, many dozens of Muslims and Arabs, as well as other denominations that decided to come, and they wanted to come and break bread together. And, thank God we had enough food, because we never, thank God, run out of food. We always order more. Pam, as a Jewish mother, you're not going to allow food. You're going to have an abundance. And if you have leftovers, no, that should be the worst thing. But anyway, so we had, and I got up when everyone was sitting down, and there was probably, I don't recall exactly, but there was at least 60 to 70 students in that room. And I got up and I said, because everyone, sort of sat with their cliques and the clusters. And I got up and I said, no, I want every single person to switch seats, go and sit with someone you do not know. Next to them, across them, I don't care, just go and sit. And they did that. And the camaraderie, the conversations that were happening were incredible, were spectacular. It was so beautiful to see. And then we opened the floor for any questions. And you can imagine, I was going to get all these questions, and I was knew it, and I was ready, and we had a beautiful debate. And I said, look, we can have differences, and we cannot agree on so many things. However, you are an image of God. I am created in the image of God. And for humanity and for world's sake, we need to get along. Doesn't mean we have to agree, but we need to get along. And that really kicked it. We did it, I think, about a year or two. Again, after that, like another 2 years, and then sort of fizzled out. Then I remember when BDS hits, and that was big on campuses. And I was up nights with students. They would come to me worried in my house, and I would come to their apartments. I feel like I have a target on my back. I don't feel comfortable going to campus, and I don't feel this, and I don't feel that. And I always have to look over my shoulder, and and so obviously I had a meeting at that time, was with the president of the university, was Alan Wilderman, and we were, he was made aware of it. He understood it more. He may have not understood it the way, if I didn't have, had that meeting with him and 2 or 3 other students. And we spoke to him about it, and we explained, and he agreed. He said, campus has to be safe for everyone. And we were able to, and then kids, in the beginning were frightful, but then started. And my message to them was, listen, when you as yourself are not proud of who you are, for sure, you're going to be scared. For sure, you're not going to be comfortable walking in the middle of campus, in the middle of the square, whatever it is, with a Magen David necklace. I don't even mean with a kippah, just even with a Magen David necklace. And I said, you need to be proud. You need to be happy. You need to be like ecstatic of who you are. The same way that other people are so proud of who they are. And people respect you for that. And people will respect you. And with that, yes, have there been incidents? Small, but not on this large scale that everyone would think. And I think is trying to change a culture that people are fed on campus. And I think one of the greatest things is education, that we can be different. Okay, I'm talking too much. You may have other questions.
No, it's interesting that you came to that point, because every other person that I've been discussing this type of thing with, it always goes back to the kids are not educated enough to be able to handle life situations, that they don't know what their Jewish path is. They don't know why they should be proud to be Jewish. But the bigger thing that I'm finding, and this happened just 2 weeks ago, when we had the march where people were protesting the education, sex education in the public schools. And there were over 1,000 people marching down Riverside Drive, right. And they didn't want that, blah, 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 for all of their reasons. But there were about 150 anti-protesters on the sidelines. And my daughter Miriam, a shy and introverted person, just like myself, is there with her. Is there with her friends, because she believes that everybody needs to be educated and understand that people are different from each other, and it's okay. That it's okay to be different. That you still love each other and you still care for each other and you still do these things.
100%. And that's, I could agree, I could disagree, yes, protest, no protest, but that doesn't make a difference. Everyone has their right to protest, to not to protest, to anti-protest. Doesn't make a difference. But no one has a right to embarrass people, to spit on people, to disgrace people, to racial slurs. No one has that right, regardless of where you stand. It doesn't make a difference. That's not the argument. And therefore, I am a very firm believer, and I think that has to be done also on campuses and in schools, that there has to be a level of tolerance. It doesn't mean that I have to agree,
Right.
but it means that I have to be able to tolerate that other individual person's thought, perspective, ideology, whatever it is. And when I'm talking about also only that there's a lot of that education is a problem, I'm also talking about from the other side, because on the other side of anti-Semitism and everything, I'm not only talking about from the Jews. They're not taught this in the schools. They're not taught this at home. What they are taught is that this nation is bad and is evil, and therefore you need to go and throw eggs at them, spit at them, and you should be disgusted by them. That's where the problem is. And I think that if we can try to understand that, you know what, there are less differences that there are between us, me and this other individual person that may hate me, than people even realize. But have we even had that discussion? And I think specifically on campus, it's all about education, right?
Exactly.
And I remember we had a speaker that came. I forgot what his name was. He was a Bedouin from Israel, not a Jew, a Muslim or an Arab. I don't remember. And he worked with the Israeli government and the army and this and that. So obviously we brought him to campus and he wrote a book, and we absolutely knew that there's going to be huge protests. So I had already arranged with Francine at the law building that we're going to have this. So obviously campus police were there. That was arranged. And I was worried that we open up the room where we're going to go, it will just be flooded with all anti protesters, and then the people that are really coming to listen to him aren't going to be allowed in. So Francine came up with an ingenious idea. It was amazing. She said, this is open for law school students. If there is room after that, there's seats in the room, you're welcome to come in. Well, obviously 98% of them were not in law school. So all the Jews were got in, and then many other Christians and other people went in. And then a few of people that came to protest came in. And, they were on the top there and yelling with their signs. They don't even know what they're yelling because they're just reading what it says at the back of the sign that they have printed, right? You this, you that. So obviously he was calm. The speaker was calm. And there must have been, I don't know, maybe 250, 275 students in the room. Maybe a teeny drop less, a little more. Anyway, and I got up and I said, hold on a second. You're protesting for what you believe. He's explaining and talking where he believes what he believes. You're going to University of Windsor. The other students are going to University of Windsor. Where does this aspect of education come in here? In other words, what you're doing right now is you're going anti-education because you're just coming and slurring whatever you want to slur, but you're not allowing people to get educated. You included. Maybe the Jews will hear what he says and may not necessarily agree with him either. Doesn't make a difference. But you're here, so if you're here just to cause a ruckus and no education, then there's no reason for you to belong here, and you can leave. And let me tell you how many left. Every single one of them, maybe besides one. And I think that's where it becomes the problem, is it's the media, it's so much things that are out there, specifically nowadays, there's just so much you can read that is not necessarily true. So that's what I think. I think on campus, it has to be, that there has to be education, that people have to be able to be, and then I have to be proud. Don't be embarrassed. Now, I always tell people, if you're proud of who you are, people respect you. If you're embarrassed of who you are, how do you expect those people to respect you? Because they know you're Jewish. You're not going to hide. Your nose gives it away. Whatever gives it away, you're gonna know. So be proud. And I think if you can do that, people feel a lot more comfortable.
Okay. I agree with everything you said, but here's the problem. Especially in the United States on university campuses, things are just getting extremely volatile, and the campuses seem to allow it. And
Correct.
outside of there was also when you were just here, there was a program that the Muslim Students Association was going to put on. It was a movie they were going to just put on, and it was Apartheid 101. And it just slandered Jews in Israel. They didn't get anywhere close to what was happening on the ground. And I having heard it, I called a few of my friends. I brought my daughter, and my friend brought her daughter. I brought a tape recorder because I was going to tape it. And I'd gone to, I think,
what? A tape recorder? What's a tape recorder?
To hear what people were going to say
No,
afterwards.
no, I know. I'm saying, who knows what a tape recorder is today?
Oh.
We don't even know what
That's how old I am, folks. Oh
anyway,
my God, you're right.
So you recorded it, yeah.
But no, what happened was I sent letters to the board of directors. I sent letters to the president, and they were constantly being ignored until I said, "You're going to lose money." Because I now have had 35 Jewish students say they're not coming back because they fear for their lives. Oh, look, all of a sudden it was canceled. And then what was horrifying to me, I still went because nobody knew. They just put the posters on. And I don't know if you remember Dario Hunter. He was the president. And there were about 400 or 500 kids, and they all had the keffiyehs around their necks and everything. And as soon as they arrived, oops, oh, wow.
You're getting too excited, Cam.
But anyway, they didn't know. Like, they were so angry, they grabbed him. They were going to lynch him. So me being shy and introverted, as I've mentioned before, I jumped up on the table and I said, "This isn't the kid who did this to you. It was me. I'm the one who stopped your program, and I'll be glad to tell you why." And all of a sudden there was silence in the room, and they let Dario go. And so my friend Herda and I, we looked at each other, and I said, "You take the girls, I'll take the guys." So we split them up. And what we found out was half of the people there weren't even from the university. They had been
I was
busted.
just gonna tell you, because we had that same situation, and where Jews were, like, students on campus were really getting harassed, and they, I had already spoken and I said, you know what? I remember who they were even. I took 4 students and I said, we're going to go to the president's office. We went to the president's office, and he was very busy, this and that. And we knocked on the door to the secretary there, and we said, we need to speak to the president. These are all students that belong in this university. They are allowing, number one, your salary, the president's salary, and everyone else's salary. So they have a right to have a discussion. He's busy, we can wait 20 minutes. It's not a problem. Doesn't have to conform his whole schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And they went in, and Alan Windelman saw them, and we spoke, and we explained to them. There was a lot of issues going on at that period of time. And they went and they looked at the student council, because there was elections happening and who was going to become president and this sort of 98 or maybe 90% for sure, or maybe a little bit higher, were not even registered at the University of Windsor.
Yeah, they've taken previous numbers and given the names. Yeah.
So a lot of things have changed that, and I think people have very and so I believe, yes, I can only talk for University of Windsor. I don't know what's in Toronto, in the States. I'm not there. But I have not heard from students over the last many years that they are scared, embarrassed, worried. Yeah, this could always be a situation. There's always a bad apple that falls. That's okay. It happens. It's not okay, but it happens. But in general, and I think it's because the mind frame, the mindset of people has sort of shifted, I hope, a little bit.
But that's in Windsor. It's
Yeah, correct.
It's
Correct.
exploding every place else.
Right.
And that like,
and I think it's a problem with the universities.
Yeah.
It's starting all the way from the top, because how is it that professors can be speaking the way that they're speaking if they're supposed to be non-biased, giving education? Education is not a biased thing. In other words, you're taking a side. If you're teaching history, you're not taking the sides of the Indians versus the Americans, or the Americans versus the Taiwan, whatever. You're teaching the history of what it is, and we know what the results are. Fine, but you're not supposed to be taking a side when you're doing history. You're teaching this, and the same thing should be in law. You're teaching the case of the law, not saying, well, because I stand like this, therefore you should be. Then that's where the problem is, I think. Big problem.
So then how do we go about fixing that? Because everybody, literally every single person I've done interviews with has said the same thing. This is the problem. It's in the education.
I think
I don't know where we go.
I mean, I don't know how easy this is, but when you have a band of people, alumni, look, you know this yourself because you just said that story. When it hits them in the pocketbooks, they'll come very fast. When students, alumni, parents come together and they say, this is not okay in an educational system, it needs to be changed. Doesn't mean you're taking sides. Unless, if it's not, then, but it's easy for me to say that, right?
Me too. We don't have that kind of money that could change it. But I know it's really kind of scary. And it's the same, it's the same across the board with news media. It's like they don't give facts. They don't give a history of the situation.
So if you're not giving that, exactly what you're just saying, what do you expect the kids are supposed to know?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a problem.
Well, thank you very much, Rabbi, for coming on today.
My pleasure, and thank you, Pam, for doing this.
And I'm hoping I was just going to say, I'm hoping you're going to come back on and do a few more podcasts with me.
Anytime you want.
Okay, thank you. Take care.
All right.
What time will it be when war is no more? When bullets are melted and the warships moor.
This podcast is brought to you by Unbreakable Bindings Publishing Company. Executive produced by Lori Baldassi, produced by Ryan Richardson, hosted by Pam Goldstein.